Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela. And my nose, all of a sudden, the last few times I'll get on to face, on a face thing, my nose is itching. Like as soon as I hit the button. Welcome back to my channel. Um, I um, decided to do this video because I've got a few decks coming in the mail that are all about past lives. And so I thought I would do this video ahead of time, just because if I do this part of the video and the reviews and stuff on that, it's going to take forever. So I'm doing this uh, past life, telling my past life regression meditation I did. Before I do that, though, I have figured out who I was in my last life. It was someone famous, and right before I started my spiritual journey, um, I got obsessed with this person. I read everything there was to know about them, and I couldn't figure out why. And then started my spiritual journey, and I started working with pendulums. When I first started my spiritual journey, it was like I was trying to find my niche, my thing that I needed to work with. I got heavily into pendulums. I got heavily into past lives. And the past life thing is, and then of course, enter tarot April of the next year. The past life thing though, for me was more of a, if I can prove past lives exist, all of this exists. And I'm not going crazy. Um, it's something that if I can prove past lives are real, then I have to call into question everything I know. And how I was raised, because I was raised Pentecostal. But I kind of fell out of that a little bit. I did past lives with the pendulum for a few months there. I was like insane with it. I got all kinds of like pendulum spread things, whatever you call them, pendulum boards. I got books on pendulums, everything that you could possibly want to know about between past lives and pendulums. Because I wasn't into tarot yet. And so it kind of boggled my mind when synchronicity started happening about this person that I had already become obsessed with prior to my spiritual journey. And I'm like, so I full on asked my pendulum, I'm like, was I this person in my past life? And it said yes. And I had, it's funny because, like I said, every time I'm noticing it more and more since I started my spiritual journey, that every time I voice something I need or want, it happens. And that's why I say be very careful what you wish for, because manifesting is real. Because when I first started my pendulum journey, if you will, I I lost my train of thought. I wanted a pendulum, and then before I knew it, I had 13 of them. So it was like manifesting times 10 in reality, because I'm like, I don't even know where half of these came from. They just came to me. And I have a very hard time now going into a store. Like I went to a metaphysical fair, and I haven't had a friend with me, and I told her, I said, I have a very hard time walking by a stand of pendulums because they all start moving. She's like, oh, that's not a thing. And then it happened. She's like, this is nuts. Every stand that we walked by that had pendulums on them, they all started moving toward me and like trying to follow me. So I've had a very hard time walking into like a metaphysical shop that has a lot of pendulums, because they all start moving when I walk in. And it's crazy because I was always told, if they start moving, that means they want to go home with you. Well, I can't afford all of you. So, yeah, it's just a thing. And I just found that really crazy when I first started reading with pendulums, and I would walk into somewhere that had them, and they were just, all of them started moving and following me. to the point where at the fair, some of them fell over because they started swinging so hard when I was walking away from them, that they tipped the scale over, or the stand they were on over. And even the people selling them were looking at me like, walk away, just walk away. It was crazy. But I got a lot of insight and a lot of use out of my pendulums when it came to past lives. But I was still one of those people. I need proof. I've always, since I started my spiritual journey, before that, I was like, there's no way past lives exist. It's not a thing. People just use that as an excuse to do bad things because they know they're going to come back at another life. And I've had my eyes opened considerably when it comes to past lives. I was on the fence so hardcore about it that it was that block in my mind that was just like, no, it's not a thing. And then all of a sudden, all these things started happening that was like, what? Point proof with the past life, my last life. And then I started digging in when all these synchronicities started coming up with the pendulum. And I'm like, so I actually made a a pendulum board with 5 famous people on it from different eras. And all 13 pendulums I used on this board, and all of them said the same person. If that wasn't proof enough, the next metaphysical fair I went to, and I actually got a reading done for past lives. And I found this interesting because before I said, I need you to tell me about my last life. She automatically was getting a blonde little girl, that had died around 6 or 7. And I was like, yeah, that's all good and well, but I didn't care. I wanted to know about the last life. So I actually kind of stopped her and was like, is there anything you could tell me about the last life? And she's like, well, obviously you already think you know who it is. And I told her who it was. And she's like, I've never heard of this person. I don't know how she hasn't heard of this person. It blew my mind that she had never heard of this person, because everybody's heard of this person. And I find it really ironic that she had no idea who it was. Because then she pulled out her pendulum and she started asking the pendulum if this person was me in a last life and all these other questions, and all of them were yes. And I'm like, so that was kind of my extra proof I needed, that yes, I was this person, and it made a lot of sense. And then I started doing a lot of deep dives. There's my dog coming in. One of them. They're both in here. So if you hear scratching or growling, that's my dogs. But after this, I started doing a lot of personal digging into this person, and I found a lot of synchronicities between our lives, their life then and my life now. It is almost like we are the same person now, except they wound up killing themselves. And I think that's part of why I have such an aversion to suicide now. I mean, it's a huge aversion to me. There's always a way out other than death. And just the other synchronicities, the fact that we both had 3 children, the fact that I live where I live. I have no idea how I wound up living in the city I live in, but this person lived here. It was an integral part of their youth. And I'm like, this is nuts. So there were so many synchronicities about their personal life that coincided with my life now that I could no longer deny it. That there was something happening here, that there was some kind of past life. And it explains so much about who I am and what I know is my purpose and all that now. So it made total sense. However, I was still on the fence. Because if all this hadn't been proof enough, I was on the fence. And so I started going to a group meditation at the end of 2019. And of course, when 2020 hit, they haven't closed down, but they stopped doing the group meditation. So I haven't been since like March of 2020. But the last group meditation I went to, and now my dog wants out. So bear with me just a second. Hi, I'm back. I'll be pausing it again in a minute because we have like 5 inches of snow. We got Saturday. It's been 6 degrees every day since then. So she's not going to be out there long. But I decided to go do a group meditation. My last group meditation I did was a past life regression meditation for the group. And I went in there with no expectations. I went in there thinking, oh, nothing's going to happen. And even though I'd had so many group meditations that were just phenomenal and out of this world and unexplainable, that I still walked in there with this chip on my shoulder, like nothing's going to happen. And the only thing meditation I was even looking forward to was possibly that last life. That's not what happened at all. So I go into the group meditation, and you could literally feel this like palpable, ancestral, weird energy in the room when you walked in it before the meditation even started. You could feel there were some other energies in the room that from our past that was there. You could just feel it. And so when we started the group meditation, he told us to close our eyes and start breathing, and we did like a few deep breaths. And as soon as I took my like third breath, I heard a gunshot. And it literally sounded like it was right next to my ear. I jumped, and then I kind of had to start over because I looked around and was like, what's happening? And I assumed that was my last life because they killed themselves by gunshot. So I'm assuming that part of it just kind of kicked in. But that's not the meditation or the past life I experienced. So we started breathing, and he said, picture yourself in an elevator going down, 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 down. And I pictured myself in like one of these old, like with the cage in the front, like decrepit service elevators in like an old mansion somewhere that no longer really works, and it creaks when it goes down, and it takes forever to get down to the basement. And so we were breathing and meditating, and like I could picture everything in my mind. I'm a very visual meditator. I'm very visual, so I can picture things very well. And I pictured myself going down this elevator, down, down, down. And just when I thought, I mean, if I hear him say going down one more time, we're like in the pits of hell right now. We're so low. He said, okay, now the elevator stops and it opens up. And this is where I'm just like, all of a sudden, I was somewhere else. And it was funny because while I was going down, 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 down the elevator, I could picture myself going down, but I could also hear him at the same time, telling me to keep going down in the elevator. And at one point I was like, yeah, he needs to stop saying down, just get to where we're going. Kind of ramble in my mind. But then as soon as he said, stop, now step out. And the elevator doors opened, and I stepped out into this beautiful wildflower field, blue sky, something out of an old Western that you would see that was just unbelievably beautiful. And everything around me, everything else around me disappeared. The guy doing the guided meditation disappeared. I was in this field. I was another person. And I started hearing, mommy, 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 where are you, mommy? And then I realized it was me saying it. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I was me, but I was also her at the same time. It was the very weirdest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Because there were parts of it where I was her and I was feeling all her feelings, but then I would be me watching her. But I realized I was the one saying, mommy, mommy, where are you, mommy? And all of a sudden this beautiful like auburn haired lady, long haired lady in this like 1800s style. It was 1800s. 1800s like farmer girl dress, walks up and she's got this huge smile. And she whips me up in her arms, and I, for the first time, stepped back and saw who I was, what I looked like, and I was a girl around 6 or 7, blonde hair. Um, and I didn't realize till after this meditation, maybe 2 weeks after this meditation, then I'm like, oh my God, when I went to the uh, psychic fair and I did the reading, I was so concerned about finding out the last life that I already knew who was, that she had touched on this person I was, this blonde haired 6 or 7 year old little girl. And I'm like, what? But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so she whips me up into her arms, and it's my mom. And we have just this, it's this utter, most beautiful, most perfect mother-daughter relationship. There's so much love and joy and peace. And I instantly started bawling because I've never had that in this life. I've never really had a relationship with my mother. She was quite abusive. I don't think I ever heard her say she loved me until I got older and stopped speaking to her. Then she's like, well, I love you. No, I don't, because you chose to abuse me. You chose to make my life a living hell for 18 years and continued on after that, even though I was grown and gone. The abuse I suffered at her hands was so palpable and so damaging that I spent years recovering from her. And when I finally did recover is when I broke away from her and was like, I can't do this anymore. You can't be the mother I need, and I'm never going to live up to your expectations, no matter how good I am, how perfect I am. So I'm stopped trying because it's exhausting. So just this moment, and I might tear up again because just thinking about the love and the joy and the just utter beauty of that moment made me cry so hard, and I was bawling, and I was suddenly pissed. I was super pissed because I'm like, why did I get it in this life and I don't have it now? This relationship that I've longed for the entirety of my life. I've longed for this relationship. And it's never going to happen. It's never happened, and it's never going to happen. Just because my mother's who she is. She's never going to change. She's never attempted to change who she is. And I was so pissed off that I was just like, I went through this all of a sudden just rage and hate and anger all in this few minutes of this meditation. It was horrible. And what made it worse is all of a sudden the dad rides up on a horse. He kind of jumps off the horse, all swagger, like whips her up and the wife up in their arms, and they're just so beautiful and loving. And it's this perfect little family. And I'm like, I've never had that in my entire life. My parents divorced when I was 4. I rarely saw my dad growing up. It was nothing like this life. It was something that was so beautiful that you can't put into words how perfect that moment was. And then I was so mad during the meditation. I'm like, and I'm asking my guides while I'm in this meditation, why am I seeing this? Why? And I was, for a split second, I was jealous too. I'm not gonna lie. I was jealous of just the beauty and the sweetness and the love, the unconditional love of that moment. And I was like, why? Why are you showing me this life? And I heard a voice tell me, it's because you need to let go of, sorry, you need to let go of what you think you should have in this life because you've had it before. Sorry. So it was more like, buck up, because you've had this in a lifetime. You don't need it every lifetime because you've already experienced it. And sorry, I don't know why I'm crying all of a sudden. I've told this story many times and not cried. I mean, it's kind of like I'm reliving that moment again, and it's something I will carry with me forever because it woke me up, and it in that moment I was free of the non-relationship I currently have with my mother. And hold on, my dog's wanting in now. Okay, I'm back. I had to collect myself a little bit too there. But yeah, I heard this voice, and it was like, suck it up. You've had this. You've experienced this love, this joy, this unencumbered, just um, unconditional love. You've experienced it before. You have it inside of you. You carry it with you because you already had this experience. You needed a different experience in this life. And um, it was mind blowing. And I was just like, this is nuts. And it calmed me down. I was to the point where I was almost hyperventilating. I was so mad in this meditation. And that just blew my mind. And then the scene switched to the little girl, me, lying on a makeshift bed, and she's dying. And at first I thought she was dying of like maybe cholera or one of those diseases that was back in that time frame. And then she shifts, and she's wearing like this dirty, almost dirty, like she's been wearing it for several days, like long nightgown. And she shifts, and I'm like, she's obviously dying from cholera or something like that. And she shifts a certain way, and the nightgown raises up, and you see a snake bite on her ankle. And then I started getting like downloads from my guides. It was like it was a snake bite. It was a poisonous snake bite. They couldn't fix it back then. She's going to die. And I literally sat there and watched her die. And then I watched her soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, literally come out of her. And I was heartbroken because I'm like, she had her whole life ahead of her, and she died from a snake bite, really? But then at the same time, I'm like, that explains why I'm terrified of snakes. No rhyme or reason. I've always been terrified of snakes. Always. So that explains that. But then something else happened where, okay, first of all, the mother was so heartbroken. She basically starved herself to death. She wound up dying like 3 months later because she was so brokenhearted that she lost the one thing in her life that she loved, that mattered to her the most, was her daughter. I'm not going to cry again. And it's weird because at that point it shifted, because the daughter spirit, my soul, hung around, and I could see her hanging around watching the mother wilt away, and nothing she could do about it because she was passed on. And she hung around, and you could hear her calling out, "Mommy, mommy, drink something, eat something, do something." Because she literally starved herself and, what do you call it? Was dehydrated. She dehydrated and starved herself to death because she was so heartbroken she could not eat or drink anything. She wound up dying literally like 3 months after her daughter had passed because she could not go on without her child. And I found that very heartbreaking, very, very sad. And it was like, wow. Comparing that to now, I don't know that my mother would do that for me, at all. And I realized in that moment that we were the same mother and daughter. Something was telling me she's the same mother. You are the same daughter. So we had the same roles in that lifetime. They were just a completely different set of roles. um, Rules to everything. And then it's weird because I heard you. She's watching the mother die. The mother dies. Um, and then I could hear them talking as if it was almost like their souls were sitting in the rafters of the house. And you could hear them talking and see like a silhouette of them in the rafters of the top of the house. And they were literally talking about how they were coming into this life that I'm living now. And I found this very interesting because at that moment, it hit me. First of all, it was the same mother, the same me, the daughter. We had the same roles in that lifetime. However, we were each other's lifeline. Um, there was so much unconditional love and peace and joy in that family that I think in part of it was destroyed when I died from the snake bite. But then we were talking about how we would come into this life right now. And it kind of set me free because we both, in that moment, I realized we both chose the exact roles we came into. So all this heartbreak I've had over the years, all the loss, all the loneliness I felt from never having that kind of connection with my mother, it kind of unburdened me because I'm like, well, we both chose this life. We chose how we were going to be together in this life. And I just found that very fascinating, considering how great that relationship was. I'm like, I don't understand why we wouldn't have came into this life that way. But again, with my guides telling me, you've already experienced this. You have to experience something different. This loss, this disconnect. You have to experience it in this life because you've already had the great stuff. So buck up and get with the program. Don't let it ruin your life. And I found that group meditation was just fantastic, and it kind of it took me a few months to digest it all and go through it all. I'm just like, wow. But now I'm on this revamped past lives kick again. I don't think I'll ever be able to replicate that because that was just so deep and fantastic. I don't know that I'll be able to replicate it, but I'm so into past lives now. I'm such a believer because that experience was nuts. But yeah, that was my past life, and that's why I did that because we're 30 minutes in here, and I've got past life decks coming, so I wanted to do this kind of an interlude or an introduction to that's coming. So yeah, that's my story. If you guys like it, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And you guys have a great afternoon. Bye.